your stations. Nick, to your station. I can see him. He's the only other one with a pink hoodie. All right. We'll just wait for a few more people to come in. Simo, Mr. Pete today, man. Simo. Front row. Love it. No. All right. Maybe we'll put that open. Yeah. That's okay. We'll keep it open. Just in case more people want to come in. People got their prime positions out there. All right, we'll get started. So first of all, thank you very much to everyone who has taken the time out on is it Wednesday? Everything's a blur. On a Wednesday to come join us for this Sydney event for the Australian DeFi Association. Hands up here whose first time it is to one of these events. There's a few. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. If you're interested in blockchain, Web3, all of that kind of fun stuff, even though, it might not be the most popular thing out there, there's still a lot of really good tech. Everyone seems to be in AI now, even us as well. We'll talk about that. But before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional owners of the land on which we stand, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present, and future. And so you can see as well, we've got a few sponsors here. So thanks to all of them. Some of them are in this room and we'll be talking tonight. So thank you to Sensan, Not Centralized, Stone and Chalk, Adayuvo Legal, Blockearner, Fireblocks, Digital Village behind the cameras there. And you can see Chris standing up there precociously or dangerously. I don't know what the right word is. ChatGPT will tell me. Fireblocks, Clip, and Crypto Lulu as well. And we'll talk about that. Chris, am I in the right position here? Is that where you're adjusting the camera? Okay, we're good. All right, so if we can go to the next slide, please, Nick, and we'll do a few little updates and then we'll get to the interviews. So there's a QR code, you know what to do with that. There's a few links on there that you can use to find things like our Discord where people chat and have friendly discussions, conversations, arguments, fights, all the fun stuff that goes on in Web3. So good to get to that. YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, all that fun stuff. Let's go to the next one and that will come back up. This is recorded, by the way. So we've got a few cameras at the back, bit of audience participation as well. Some highlights. Actually, let's go past that one. I don't think I actually updated that one. We'll go to the next slide, Nick, please. Thank you so much. So today we've got a full bevy of people that will be presenting. Hey Lynn, how's it going? Lynn from Stone and Chalk here. We are in Stone and Chalk, so we thank them for putting this on. We would not be able to do it without them, literally. Blockearner is going to be talking. If you don't know about Blockearner, you will learn in a good way. Circle will be here. Stables, Blockdaemon as well. They're on their way, so we'll be here soon. And because we've got Circles and Stables and Blockearner, we will have a stablecoin kind of panel. Okay, so there'll be a few questions there. So if you didn't know about stablecoins, you'll learn about them and how useful they are. Last month, we didn't mean to do this, but it ended up being a talk about privacy. So we had Monero, we had Verida, we had a few other kind of groups and protocols talking about privacy on chain. So it was really interesting there. We'll do some final updates and then we'll close off with some networking. Usually what happens after this is the stragglers, whoever's left, whoever's still standing, will go down to Hotel CBD for a few more drinks, if you can still stand us, but we'll see. And then let's go to the next one. So we'll run through the updates just quickly now. I've got 5 minutes. So last month, at the start of the month, we did an event with Stone and Chalk, and usually we do these Sydney events at the start of the month. But because we do these Sydney events at the end of the month. But because Stone and Chalk had their national event, we did this with them. So there was Nab, there was myself, the CEO of Stone and Chalk, Michael Bromley, was there as well. The replay and summary is on our blog. We'll go to the next slide. Because we were going to potentially have 2 months or almost 2 months of having a delay until this event, we thought we'd do something at the end of the month, and that was to join all of the 7 cities that we're in across Australia. So Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Brisbane, Newcastle, Canberra, and Perth. I think that's 7. Melbourne? Anyway, so 7 cities, 7 different presenters from those cities that is online. So you can check that out. We had about 100 people joining us from the community as well. So it was a really good talk for about 2 hours or so. So really good insights there from what people are building around the country. Next slide, please, Nick. And Adelaide had their first event at Stone and Chalk. So Stone and Chalk is in Melbourne, Sydney, and Adelaide. And so we're here because they've created this thing called the Web3 Innovation Centre, and they asked Australian DeFi Association, which is us, to bring people together. So I don't know if you guys, I don't know where you're working, whether it's in corporate or you're working in a WeWork startup or whatever else it is. What we're trying to do here with Stone and Chalk in this partnership is to, if you're a startup and you're working in the Web3 space, people coming to sit together. And I know there's a few people in this room that are already part of that community and more that will be joining that. So thank you all that have joined in there. But yeah, Adelaide ran their first event with Stone and Chalk. Next one, please. We've got a podcast, and there'll be some updates on this soon, but the latest two podcasts, we had Ashi have an interview with Shahira Gardner, who's from Finch and Scalata Ventures, so she's up in Brizzy, and so they were talking about NFTs and marketing. I got to interview Steve Vallis from Blockchain APAC. He used to be the CEO and Managing Director of Blockchain Australia, the leading body in this space, along with us, of course. So, but basically, yeah, we've got that podcast. It's on our YouTube. We record these meetups as well, so they actually go out. This will be out probably tomorrow or the day after, so very soon. The next one. We're going to have a new home for the podcast. So when we initially set this up last year, we were in a venue that used to be the ex-studios for CNBC, the financial news channel. We had that for a couple of months, and then we had to move. We were looking at setting up a podcast and stuff there, and it didn't work out. Everybody, we've got some special guests here, our youngest audience members, Alina and Ariana. Welcome them. And their father, Arturo, who I have to put up with along with Nick every now and then. So I work with Arturo, so all good. And he's one of our chapter leads here. So anyway, back to the podcast. You can see on the right-hand side there, the venue. It's sitting on the rocks, right? Like it is down just beyond Squires Landing. So it's like right near there, one of the really cool restaurants. Come, have a seat. Come on in. Okay, they're fine. All right. So anyway, the agreement is that we're going to do live podcasts there again. These have all been just online, whether it's Shahira doing it online or I'm doing it online. We're going to start doing them in person again. So if you've got an interesting project, we want to hear about it. We've got this really cool backdrop. It's a really cool place. If we go to the next slide, please, Nick. The reason we're doing stuff there with them is because we were lucky enough to actually do a project with Crypto Lulu where effectively they've got this really cool bar / restaurant, and there's going to be like this exclusive kind of Soho House kind of club. So you don't have to be in Web3 to be part of it. You might just want to be there for the networking for any kind of business. So they're going to start promoting that. They've got really good connections in with businesses and government. So we'll talk more about that. And it will be a Web3 podcast, but there'll be other elements of emerging technology brought into that. So you can learn more about that. The Crypto Lulu thing, you can look it up on OpenSea. We can talk to you more about that. I've got a minute left. Let's go to the next one. Web3 Innovation Centre, so I've already mentioned that. You can see some of the happy folks that are here. Katrina, who's just walking away, her photo's up on there as well. So I can see her right there. Anyway, so, you know, it's upstairs here in Melbourne, also in Adelaide. If you're in Melbourne, you've got Collective Shift, you've got L-Bait, so shout outs to those guys. There's a few folks in Adelaide as well, so really good stuff happening by bringing people together. So after meetups like this, you have to wait a month. Well, no, what if you could actually sit near people? You could have these water cooler conversations with people that are in this emerging tech space. That's what this is all about. Next slide. All right. And then we've got our next event, which is part of Blockchain Week. So last year, we were still fledgling, we were still new, not really part of the scene so much. But this year we've been asked to actually put on an event as part of the Tuesday. So on Tuesday at Blockchain Week, there's actually events going on all around Australia. And we'll be doing the one in Sydney in the evening. There's something going on during the day with one of the law firms, and then there's us in the evening. So please come and join us right here on the 27th of June. Next one. All right. Now we're going to get over to the interviews, and to do the introductions and bring people up on stage, I want to introduce you to our chapter lead, Leah Deshkina.
Hi, guys. First of all, check out the new merch. Loving the pink. Nick chose it. Hi, Nick. Loves it. Okay, first up, we have James from Block Earner. Where is James? Awesome.
Sit next to you, all right? I'm a little nervous today. That's last time I was talking, there was about a third of the people here, so
We grow.
it's great to see how quickly this is growing.
Yeah, not your first time, not your first rodeo. Before we dive in one sentence, for people who might not be aware of what Blockdaemon is, what it does, really brief intro, and then we'll get into the juicy stuff.
Yeah, cool. So Block Owner has been around since roughly the beginning of last year. And what we are aiming to do is simplify blockchain finance, simplify decentralized assets for Australians everywhere. So we like to say that you can buy crypto everywhere, but with Block Owner, you can also use it. So we do a bunch of products, which I'm sure we'll go into a little bit, but that's in a nutshell what we do.
Side note, I remember last year, must have been maybe June or July, I saw in Bondi and on all the train stations, there were massive Block Owner ads. And I was like, oh, wow, these guys are growing, doing well. I loved it.
Yeah, look, I don't think you're in crypto without some obnoxious ad.
Oh, it wasn't obnoxious. It was very tasteful. It was great. Okay, so could we go to the next slide, please? No, other way. Yep. So just to kick off, obviously, James, you are operating in a crypto space. It's a little bit tough out there at the moment in terms of just reputationally, right? So a lot of companies and projects in this space have taken a beating. Obviously started with not even FTX, with Luna, and kind of kept going on and on. What's it like to operate in the space right now where there's so much public scrutiny, media scrutiny, reg scrutiny? How are you finding it? How are you continuing to build? Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, cool. That's a big one. For us, you're spot on. It seems like from every different angle, you've got new people saying all the things wrong with Web3 and all the things wrong with crypto. And I've made this slide to sort of demonstrate that it seems like crypto is going through yet another reputation crisis, as though the reputation could actually get worse. And so I've put Ledger there. So just really quick show of hands. Who knows what's going on with Ledger at the moment? Okay, it's about a third of the room. Really quickly for the rest of everybody, what's happening? Ledger makes cold storage wallets, and there's a big issue at the moment indicating that there might be some backdoor access to your wallet that everybody thought was previously safe. And I'm not going to take a view on that, but it's just another example of, crypto in trouble. Binance is up there again because, as we all know, within the last week, Binance lost their banking partner, right? So we know this quite intimately. You can no longer move AUD into Binance. You can only take it out, and that stops on the 1st of June. So you can't even get your cash out after then. You'll have to take crypto. So there's a lot of things happening and a lot of reasons to hate the industry, to be frank. But more to your question, Leah, what is it like? I think it really thins the herd times like this. Like, I've been in the space almost 4 years now, so been through a cycle or two, and it just comes with a lot of noise and a lot of projects that aren't built to last. But I think times like this help you really focus on your core value, and if you don't have one, then you don't last, I guess is the way to put it.
As one of the founders in the Web3 space said to me, all you have to do is keep your lights on, and if you can't keep the lights on, light a candle. But it's genuinely, it's a really tough time, right? Like, you are trying to sell your products or services to the retail customers. On the other side, you have this massive debanking issue that's going on, which Binance is part of that, but it's a broader conversation, right? Like, there is a problem with debanking in Australia. And then you've got the regs, the regulator, who is also not making your life easy.
Yeah, look, regulation is a risk right now for all projects in the room. And the ones not in the room. But I think it's naive to think that the regulatory risk will disappear. It will always be a risk, I think, and the regulations will continue to evolve, continue to be unpredictable. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to talk to them openly, apply for as many licenses as you can. And just on that topic, I think decentralization, like the Oz DeFi Association, is part of where the regulators stumble. And I just want to sort of say our stance on that. Our stance on decentralization is that decentralization is a spectrum, and I don't think decentralization in either end of the spectrum, like all in, everybody writes their passcode down on a piece of paper and puts it in their undie drawer. I don't think that's the future. And I also don't think the future is what we currently have, right, which is storing your money with a bank. There's somewhere in the middle, is our view. And that's with that in mind is sort of how we build our products. So you'll have to trust someone at somewhere along the way, and we like to say that we're trustworthy. Nothing's ever happened, and you either trust yourself or you trust a party. Is our stance on it.
Yeah, so it's the scale of decentralization, and I think after everything that happened within the banking industry in the US specifically, I think you would think twice. Maybe, storing your seed phrase in your undie drawer is actually a viable option.
That's so true, right? Trust is such an interesting word. Like it erodes so quickly. And I'm sure a few months ago, a lot of people were saying, put your money in the bank. And now that entire narrative has changed. So crypto is going through a similar reputation, I think, reputation crisis. And they're just businesses like ours and many others, like this isn't an ad for Blockdaemon, just businesses like ours are really trying to focus on what makes crypto great rather than leaning into like an anti-bank narrative or any sort of self-custody narrative. We're just trying to keep people safe and give them the benefits of DeFi whilst doing so.
So on that, can we do a little bit of how it started versus how it's going? So I mentioned that, I saw the big posters in June, and I'm sure that as a project, as a company, your sort of strategy has changed, the way you build things, the way that you run your team has changed. Talk to me a little bit about that, kind of, a year in review or 6 months in review.
Yeah, I wish I had one of those how it started, how it's going memes. But yeah, this is the best example. So at Blockdaemon, like I was just saying, we really lean into DeFi as we truly believe it's the most trustworthy place to store your money. And so we help people access the benefits of DeFi without the technical know-how. So this is an example of one of our products. And so Aave, for the people that don't know really quickly, is like a peer-to-peer. The easiest way to understand it is like a peer-to-peer marketplace where you can store assets and borrow assets. The journey to get there after you buy some crypto is quite a long one, and there's many steps involved and a fair bit of technical know-how. So we decided, let's build a product that allows people single-click access to DeFi, and those users can benefit from DeFi and have their assets stored safely in DeFi, and we don't skim the yield, touch it, anything like that. And that's a way of us sort of saying, enjoy DeFi, but trust that we're doing it, helping you, holding your hand along the way. And we sort of, like leading into the spectrum point earlier, we're along the spectrum, right? We're not fully decentralized because you're trusting us at some point there, but we're a long way away from the way the system's currently working, right? So somewhere in the middle.
And I think one word to describe when I kind of started my own journey into crypto, which wasn't that long ago, you get through the first hurdle of opening the wallet, etc., buying some tokens, but then DeFi, the only way I can describe it is it's intimidating. So that onboarding is intimidating. Trying to navigate your way around sort of the terminology and the logistics of it is really hard. So yeah, I think perhaps that midpoint of the scale of decentralization, I think is probably more mass adoption friendly, if we even allowed to say the word mass adoption anymore.
I think you're spot on. We even have a staff member, I won't mention his name, but he was trying to buy some Pepe token recently, like hands up if you bought some Pepe. Obviously everyone, like nobody put their hand up. I know you're in here. You're just not, you know.
Katarina, did you buy some Pepe? Oh,
yeah, Katarina knows.
Katarina's a whale.
No, my point is that he tried to capitalize on the Pepe wave and ended up paying like 95% of his Pepe bag in gas fees. And it was just the trial by fire for him to get involved. And it's so intimidating to know what's going on. How do I get involved in this wave? And we hear that all the time from like staff, users, whatever. So that's the purpose of things like this, right? Like, I really can't see the future of buying crypto somewhere, putting it in your wallet, going onto Uniswap, swapping it, paying gas, trying to work all these things out. It's just not the way people use and store their money. There's services in the middle that have to help you do those things. And yeah.
Well, if you don't make it easy, then people just won't use it. They won't participate, not use Blockdaemon specifically. They just won't participate in the ecosystem, essentially.
Yeah, we see it the same way, yeah.
Yeah. So talking about the future, what's in store? What are you envisaging? What are you working on?
Yeah, cool. Time to talk about some roadmap, which is always super exciting. So this is one of the items. So within a couple of weeks, we'll be dropping send crypto, and it allows people, any user, to send crypto to an email address, and then that user is able to claim the crypto in a few ways. I won't go into all the detail, but that's an example of, you can buy and sell crypto everywhere, but you can't necessarily use it. So this is powered by Polygon chain. And so this is an example of, sure, on Blockdaemon you can buy and sell Polygon, but you can also get involved and use the underlying infrastructure through a send product like this. The interface is something like, Leah, I'd like to send you some USDC or something. USDC's in the house. And I can just put in your phone number or email address, off you go, you get your link to claim it. It's a nice way to send money across borders without all that stress of currency changes, fees, all that. Is product number one. The second thing that we're quite excited about leans into the trust piece that we were talking about before, because I expect people to trust our business, but that's not necessarily a fair expectation, especially during times like this. So we've just signed a deal which allows us to insure all of the deposits held with us. So this is a product that will be live later in the year. We're going through a bunch of testing and things at the moment, but it's a cold storage insurance product. So imagine you can buy your Bitcoin anywhere, but if you bring it to Blockdaemon, we'll fully insure it, up to $300 million per wallet. So sorry, Katarina, that doesn't include you, but but it should capture most Aussies, and that allows us to really lean into that peace of mind piece. So fully insured, stored in a cold storage location, sharded around the world. Happy to go into all the technical know-how, but so we're really leaning into access to crypto, introducing your friends and family through something like Send, and also storing it safely.
That's awesome. Thank you. I think that's the next evolution. That's a sign of the space maturing, I think. Awesome. We're right on time. Thank you very much. Thank you. Next up, we have Ben from Circle.
The only person based out of Australia who works for Circle. And I've been there since November last year. So today I want to give you a quick introduction on what we do and how we like to work with the ecosystem. And if you have any questions, you can approach me afterwards. I'll hang around a little bit and we can chat. Nick? Wrong way. Okay, one job. He's got one job. Sorry, I should. They're never going to invite me back. Look, our mission is really to raise global economic prosperity. And Circle started in 2013. And to achieve this mission, we initially started by trying to build a payments platform using Bitcoin. As you can imagine, after a few years, we realized that that was extremely difficult. And there's several restrictions related to Bitcoin that weren't allowing us to achieve that mission. And so in 2017 and 18, we decided to launch USDC. Next slide, Nick. And so USDC is effectively a digital currency. We believe it's the currency that sits on the internet. And just like data is able to be exchanged over the internet, we think that value should also be able to be exchanged through the internet. And in order to do that, we've created a representation of a single US dollar called USDC, the token. Now, there's three main characteristics that I want to outline. Firstly, USDC has always been stable. It has always been redeemable for one single dollar. Despite the sort of recent activity a few months ago, our users and our partners have always been able to both mint for a single US dollar and also redeem a single US dollar of USDC. Secondly, it's widely used. So we have about $30 billion of USDC in circulation currently, and we've had about $10 trillion in transactions since 2018. And we do see, obviously, those metrics around transaction increasing. And then thirdly, it is transparent. It is the most transparent stablecoin in the market. We have monthly attestations and audits that are conducted by Deloitte and published on our website, which you can access. And you can see clearly where those dollars are held, how much is in reserve, which is 80%, how much is in cash, and so on. And this is all publicly accessible. Now, in order for us to achieve this vision of a frictionless movement of value and money over the internet, we need to ensure that it is enterprise grade. We need those dollars to be enterprise grade. And in order for that to happen, it needs to adhere to the highest levels of regulation, right? So Circle is a regulation-first organization. Unlike many crypto organizations, we believe that in order to achieve adoption by both enterprises and the masses, we need to be compliant across different jurisdictions. In the US, we are regulated in the same way that Apple Pay is, or PayPal, or all the other traditional sort of payment rails. We have money transmitter licenses in 46 states, and we're working on licensing across countries like Singapore, which we have in principle approval, and France, which we're currently going through that process. I'm not gonna, oh, what happened to the text? Oh, you could, just click through and, so 4 main platforms that Circle currently offers. First is a Circle account, which gives you access to mint and redeem USDC. Second, are treasury solutions, which are basically APIs that allow you to manage different USDC accounts. Third are payments. We offer APIs for crypto rails coming in and out of different applications. And then third is Web3 services, which is fairly new. So last year, we acquired a company called Cybarvo based out of Taiwan that provides custody solutions and programmable wallets. And so they've recently been incorporated into the Circle suite of products. And so Web3 services sort of is that umbrella which houses all of these products. And you'll see most of that stuff go to market over the next few months. This is actually my final slide. But look, in terms of use cases, I think I actually decided to join in today after hearing that Stables Money and Block Earner were presenting tonight, because they are perfect examples or use cases for USDC. I think applications like that are going to really help to bring about further adoption of this regulated stablecoin. But there's several different ways that you can use USDC. Remittance is an obvious one. We see a lot of that happening in countries like the Philippines. Dollarization or providing access to stabilized currency is actually a very, very big topic and something that we see a lot of growth in. So countries that have volatile currencies, users there want to buy a stable currency to offset the volatility in their own local currency. And so a lot of them are going through wallets, through traditional sort of exchanges, and buying USDC and holding their money within USDC. Third is, not done yet. Third is sort of Web3 use cases, which I imagine most of you are familiar with: NFT marketplaces, DeFi applications, so on and so forth. And then obviously cross-border payments through enterprises and institutions. Now, how do you get USDC? So you have to sign up for a Circle account if you want to get it on the primary market. And that just involves KYC. And if you pass that, you get access to the account that allows you to transfer US dollars into our banking partners. And then once we receive that, we then mint USDC. We transfer those dollars into our bank accounts that are both reserve and sort of cash accounts. We then mint the USDC. Once that's where the sort of magic happens, and then we transfer that to our end users. So fairly simple process. And I've been mentioning USDC a lot, but we also have EURC, which is something that's getting a little bit more prominence due to recent regulation changes in the EU, which we won't sort of go into right now. But they're the two main stablecoins that we currently issue. Thank you.
Then I think be careful what you wish for. You wanted an interview, but from my end,
okay,
I was going to say, and this is off script, but it was really interesting. It was a real test for Circle and for the whole ecosystem when the SVB shit hit the fan. And I think you guys really came up trumps out of that. And for anyone who didn't listen to Jeremy, who's the CEO of Circle, speak on Bankless, I thought that was the transparency with which you kind of approached that was very formidable. So well done on that.
The narrative has been protecting the banks from crypto, right? But now that's changed to protecting crypto from the banks. And we felt that firsthand. So yeah, thanks. Listen to that Bankless episode. It's really good.
No, it was really great. Yeah. Cool. Do we have, where is Mark? Do we have time for questions for Ben, or do we move on to the next? Okay, cool. Next up, thank you, Ben. Thank you. Next up, we have Bernie from Stables.
Yo, hello. Okay, presentation, cool. Yeah, first of all, I think last time I did something like this, it probably would have been a couple of years ago. So I'm a bit rusty, so bear with me. I'm Bernie, co-founder at Stables. I am here in the room with like my co-founder Rez and part of the team, who's also happened to be one of my best mates, so extremely privileged to run a business and do something I'm very passionate with, like very good friends, people I trust and love. So what is Stables? Stable is a one-stop digital wallet that allows people to spend, send, and earn all on one balance. The reason why we believe, you can go next slide, by the way. The reason why we focusing on stablecoin and stablecoin only is because, internally we've been debating into what are going to be the big narrative, coming up in the space. We believe stablecoin being probably, if not the biggest, one of the biggest. And, we believe there's a gap in the market. So, there's a lot of wallet servicing, call it like, crypto natives, but there's no one single wallet that just serves the needs for us stablecoin users. As Ben has mentioned before, a lot of country relies on dollars. These dollars, however, today, most of these people, they actually store them under a mattress. Imagine if you can give them a wallet where they can store this dollar, in the wallet. And that really plays into our like into the trends that we're seeing that, like crypto is on the rise. There's a lot of smartphone, like going around, and there's not that many yet Ethereum wallet. However, all of the smartphone and all these like developing country, they're all having, like e-wallets. So if you see around what's happening with e-wallets, there's about like 3 billion e-wallets account around the world. And there's about like only 200 million Ethereum addresses. So, our big thesis basically is we believe that actually the trend eventually is going to close. We believe that those Ethereum addresses, those crypto addresses are going to go at the same level of the e-wallet, and therefore you need, a business or that one party that solves this problem for these people. So, the reason why we here, as I mentioned, we really like these stable coins. We're really passionate about solving real problem with crypto. We see a lot of what's happening in the space. We having solution, looking for a problem. Here, I think there's a clear problem looking for a solution, and we're here for that. So what do we do as Stable? So as Stable, we basically give people a digital dollar account. So you basically sign up through our app. It's a mobile-first application. you need to KYC. And once you KYC, we give you a few, call it like financial infrastructure pieces that you can use. Number one, we give you, especially in Australia, to start a bank account, we give you one pay ID, and we give you your unique stable digital wallet address on 7 EVM chains. Once you have that basically set up, what can you do within the wallet? You can on and off ramp immediately, so you can go from AUD into stablecoin USDC on Polygon, or you could just like send in your stable coins on 7 different networks, and you can send in any stable coin. So you can send USDT, you can send USDC. Soon we'll be supporting DAI, Frax, and more stable coins. However, what we do for you is, because of the partner that we're working with, which MasterCard is one of them, like we're only comfortable holding USDC on balance sheet. So you come to us, you deposit whatever stable coin, we swap it for you one-to-one into USDC Polygon. And then basically with that balance, you can either send it to your friends, you can use it in DeFi, by transferring into your own wallet. Otherwise, you can actually spend in the real world through a MasterCard card that we give it to you. What's different, I guess, with this MasterCard card, and why we've been working on, can go to the next slide. Yeah, and why we've been working on that specifically, and we have very high conviction on it, is that, like stable coins are actually fucking amazing, but the problem with stable coins today is that they're not that usable. Like you can, what can you do with stable coins? I mean, can you go and buy a coffee? No, you cannot really go buy a coffee unless you go through a bunch of hoops, or there's apps out there, but like, can you go buy a coffee and settle in USDC and see how much USDC the coffee costs you? Not really. Is it that important in Australia? Probably not really. So like, who are you targeting here? You're targeting the people that have stable coins. So if we have whales in the room that have stable coin, they want to spend it, they don't want to go through 6 different hoops before they get into a bank, and then the bank asks you question into where the money comes from. You could just put it into stable and spend it directly with your stable card. The other things that we actually announcing here today is that we're just opening up the closed beta as of yesterday. So if you guys are interested in trying out the app, you can just download it. It's on the App Store and iOS. Go through the process, and you can either come and find me later, and I can add you to the closed beta access. Otherwise, if you're patient, we'll be launching probably in 1 or 2 weeks' time. And yeah, I look forward to hearing your feedback, and thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to share the story.
Thank you so much, Bernie. Awesome, thank you. And yeah, I think if you're like me, and I think it depends where you sit on the scale, but for me, I think stablecoins is as close to currency as you can get, because I think there are still a lot of people out there who think that Ethereum and Bitcoin are more kind of like investment. I definitely think that, and I don't want to spend it, but stablecoins is something that you can spend more easily, and I feel there's no such, mental block there. Cool, thank you so much.
Pleasure, thank you.
Next up, Andrew from Blockdaemon.
Come on down.
Come on up. Or down.
Price is right. Here you go.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's good to be back in Australia. Actually, I'm enjoying the weather a lot because, I live in a sauna in Singapore nowadays, so it's I'm enjoying it a lot. And thanks to Mark and the crew for having me. So I run APAC for a company called Blockdaemon. Probably most of you don't know us. We kind of sit right at the back of the stack. We do work with the largest crypto native folks globally, a lot of exchanges, a lot of protocols, a lot of foundations. We work with a lot of the largest digital native companies. For example, Revolut in Europe launched a reward product underneath the hood, it's Blockdaemon. Most of what we do goes out white label. So we don't talk to retail at all. We only deal B2B, and we help people building crypto products with the underlying Lego blocks. And we deal with the largest traditional companies that are genuinely coming into this space. So on our cap table, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Citibank, Salesforce, SoftBank, Comcast, blah, 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 blah. So we do 3 things. We started life in blockchain, so just running nodes for institutions and crypto native folks. And you know, we're about to clock about 90,000 nodes under management across 65 different chains. So that makes us one of the largest node runners globally. So there's a lot of IP and kind of know-how at that scale as well. And you know, it's not uncommon for us, for one of our crypto native customers to like order 2,000-3,000 ETH validators that go through one of our APIs. So, you know, we understand that sort of scale, and we're very deliberate on the infrastructure side. So a lot of people will just blat the node straight onto AWS and think its job is done. We're very deliberate. We have a very large hardware platform of our own that's globally distributed, and we're kind of across many different infrastructure platforms. So that's kind of our node business. That's the first thing we do. I've only got one slide, so we can't get this wrong. Awesome. Excellent. Our second line of business is staking business. So like I was saying, like we're powering a lot of staking kind of capabilities for a lot of folk. Again, vast majority of that will go out just white label wholesale. You will see us have one validator branded, usually per protocol, branded as Blockdaemon as a public validator, but what you won't see is like all the white label validators we're running for the foundation or branded as other folk as well. So, you know, it's not uncommon. Something like a Polkadot, we're probably running 20 or so validators, right? Yeah, the only ones branded as us. So yeah, we can always have conversations around staking. Like we love that sort of business as well. And we recently acquired an MPC SDK product as well. So, you know, we want to be able to do more elegant ways of staking at scale because we think the future will have a higher volume and velocity of staking. And we want to be able to move away from delegation transactions in a wallet. So yeah, we've acquired some MPC tech, and that tech is currently in some of the largest crypto native folks, some of our investors that are also customers as well. So yeah, can have conversations. I'm an infrastructure guy. 2011, I left Australia. My last role was data center practice manager at Optus Business. I kind of went on to Cisco. That was kind of interesting. I did 5.5 years at AWS. And then I think the next generation of infrastructure is here and kind of what everybody's doing in the room. So I've done super traditional telco. I've done IT. I've done internet infrastructure. And now, yeah, like what I care about is blockchain infrastructure. So I'm around. We're co-hosting an event tomorrow night. If anyone's around, like Mark and the team have got some details. Come along, drink the booze, have a chat. That'd be great. And yeah, I'll be floating around tonight for any questions. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you. I think we're going to get to the next part, which is there's going to be a panel. So before we go on there, and this is going to be about stablecoins, hands up here who didn't know about what stablecoins were before coming here. And it's okay. Like, I didn't even know about it a few months ago. Thank you. Well, you know, in this space, if like there's all this like really fast transactions, there's all these really cool infrastructure, there's transparency, there's these building blocks. We can't have any of that just built on something that is, say, really volatile. Like if we want to have standard payments, it's really hard to do that without stablecoins. So it's really important. So we're going to actually get some folks up here for a discussion. If I can get back Ben from Circle, if we can get back, where is he? Bernie. And so that's Stables there. So two of the, and James, that's it. I was delaying for time because my mind is like run by ChatGPT. James, where are you? Thank you, sir. Don't spill the booze. Or do, but just outside. Come on down. Hang on, I'll give you guys that. You can share. I think this one works. See, no. Gotta turn it on now. Oh, there we go. All right, fantastic. Chris, we all good up the back? That's a thumbs up. I like it. So we've got a few questions here, and we're going to run until about, and we'll have some audience questions, of course. So, you'll get a chance to ask that. We'll run till about maybe 7:25 or so, or 7:30. We'll see how we go. But first of all, thanks for all of the speakers here and stuff. There's a lot of really great kind of insights that you guys had. It's all on record and stuff now. So financial advice, or maybe talk to a lawyer. But let's talk about decentralization and trust. So that was a topic that was brought up, and James, you put it quite rightly that it's a spectrum. There is like complete on one side decentralization and everything is run by code, and we still haven't seen anything that is out there that is purely run without any human decisions. There is at least some element of trust that is there. And then on the other side, complete centralization. And then we've seen the issues there with Optus, Medibank, Services New South Wales, all these kinds of hacks of data. And so it's a fine balance. But let's start with you. How do you think that stablecoin offerings balance that need for decentralization with the need to maintain trust in ability to peg to an underlying asset to basically remain stable? What do you think of it? Where does decentralization play a part there?
Yeah, okay. Firstly, talking as James, not block owner for now.
Financial advice, folks.
No, okay. Look, I think it just highlights the need that we need to trust somebody, right? Like you said, there's a lot of decentralized sort of shells out there, but ultimately it comes down to the decisions of somebody behind that protocol to make any reasonable or substantial change to it. And so you've got to trust somebody, but by the same token, trusting a single entity has its problems, like you said. So I really believe in the this like distribution of trust. So you see things like DAOs having a go at distributing trust across multiple touch points. You see people opening multiple bank accounts for a single, like similar to what Circle does. They spread a lot of their risk out across entities, like allowed the SVB thing to go down without a hitch. So I just believe that stablecoins, the role they play in crypto is like the spinal cord of crypto. But you really need to just come to terms with the fact that you're going to trust someone along the way. The ideal of living in the ether, I don't think is sustainable.
Thank you for that. For your perspectives, Ben, either as Ben or as Ben from Circle, I'm happy with either.
Look, I think if we take a step back, right, there's many different stablecoins, and there's three key elements of any stablecoin. One is, how is it backed? The second is, how is it regulated? And three is, how transparent is it? So for Circle, we believe that, well, decentralization, yes, it exists on public blockchains. But in terms of trust, we positioned as a regulatory first sort of organization, right? So we think that regulators have an incredibly important role to play in this market, particularly for stable coins. And that's why, for example, we spend huge amounts of time and effort in constant discussions with regulators around the world, and particularly, of course, in the US. So for us, trust means regulation and compliance, and they're two areas which we try and be at the forefront of within this industry.
Fantastic. And, we really appreciate the perspectives there, because you see the market a little bit differently to the others, given that you're traveling a lot around APAC. So, we're very lucky to have the people that we've got up on stage here, and even Andrew up the back there, because this was a really kind of like opportune moment where everyone was just in town at this point in time. So thank you. And Erez, like, what are your thoughts? Sorry, Bernie. See, my mind is, yep. There you are.
We'll have Erez speaking next time.
Okay.
Don't you?
Thank you. Could you give us your perspectives on this? There's challenges that are out there, as James and Ben have alluded to. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess there's two sides of the story. So the Bernie would tell you are a core proponent of self-custody, store your coins, don't trust anyone. But like, as a business person, I also know that that is not feasible. You want to bring this technology to the next 100 million people or whatever else, these people need to have something that is usable. Call it in my past, I come from a product background. I've been building product for like millions of people. And people are even struggling like provisioning a card in Apple Pay or Google Pay. Go ask him to, store your wallet, scribble down some keys, make sure that's safe. So I think there is a way to do it properly, especially for the masses. So I think there's a middle ground. I think, as James was mentioning before, I think you can do a custody solution, but you can do a transparent custody solution. So I think like what you've seen with the FTX, what you've seen with all decentralized players, the problem was they were all commingling funds. They had no fucking idea whose asset is who. And that's what led to all of these events that happen. But like there is a way to do custody properly. There is a way to give people peace of mind and tell them, if you don't trust me, you can verify. And like that's also how we're building our platform. Like with us, like as a consumer-facing platform, what we're seeing is whatever you see on your balance, you can go and verify on chain. It's not just a number on a screen. It's actually there in your wallet on chain. We have custody. We're using Fireblocks to keep your coins safe. But like you can go and verify yourself that those coins are there. So I think it's like depending which type of person or like type of persona you're trying to solve for. But there's I think the middle ground. That's what we should all be striving for.
The middle ground is definitely a really good approach for anything in this space. Really right now, like there's a whole lot of experiments going on, and it's really hard to take a position where you want to tear down the existing place. It's more likely that you'll find success by looking at what the weak points are in something existing, whether it's banking or insurance or healthcare, whatever it is, and improving upon that, because what blockchain is these really good tools that can help us get beyond. And so, thank you for highlighting those things. And just another thing is that until you actually start building something, it's really easy to talk about a position. But until you actually have context for a certain situation, it's not so straightforward. You might be a decentralization maxi until you actually have to go into a situation where the only way something is going to work is if there's a bit of centralization. There's a good saying from the data space, actually, and they've translated to Web3 where it says, you have to, you try to decentralize until it hurts, and you centralize until it works. So that might be potentially a bit of a takeaway there. Let's go to the next one. And after this second question, we'll open up to the audience questions and we'll go back and forth a little bit. But over to asset backing and transparency. Back to you, James. What kind of safeguards do you see are in place to ensure that stablecoins remain fully backed by the underlying asset at all times? And how do you see the trustworthiness and transparency of reserves are kept there when we're looking at assets as important for future transactions of stablecoins?
Yeah, these guys will have a bit more to add here, but probably my only comment is like attestations are such a good step in the right direction. I think I just wanted to say that I think just talking about this decentralization quickly, it's almost like we operated up until 2008 in a centralized manner, and then this radical decentralized product named Bitcoin popped up. And it doesn't mean we have to end up there, right? It shifts us along the spectrum that I was mentioning before. I just wanted to make that clear. But yeah, attestations are a great way to make sure that your stablecoin is trusted. I'm a huge DAI maxi, so I love being able to, oh shoot, sorry mate. Oh, you're right here. That was planned, I promise. No. Yeah, look, I'm sorry.
Fight Club begins at 7:30, so.
DAI is actually backed by USDC, FYI.
That was my next point, right? That was my next point. So it's an interesting situation where you have stablecoins backed by stablecoins, and the decentralized one of DAI is truly underpinned by something less decentralized, right? So, but I really love and like to see asset-backed stablecoins in a transparent way, not the way Tether does it, the way Circle do it. And I just love, asset-backed attestations, trusted party, independently auditing it. Makes sense to me.
It's the ethos, right? And Ben, tell us why you hate James. I mean,
how much time do we have? Is it? Okay. Yeah, look, I talked about this a little bit earlier, right? So we take this incredibly seriously. We have monthly attestations, and if you go into the details, what it'll actually show you, sorry, I've been sick for the last few days.
Can we get him a water? He's got water. Okay,
I knew this would happen.
it's alcohol.
No, you don't get the mic back. So we've got 80% of our reserves in a managed fund by BlackRock, and that's custodied by Bank of New York Mellon, which some of you may know is a systemically important bank. And what that means is that it's too big to fail. So effectively, if anything does happen to that bank, the government will step in without it failing. And then the remaining 20% is spread across several different banking partners, and we're working around the clock to increase those banking partners. A little bit more on that sort of in the next few months. But what I would say is that Circle has been constantly lobbying for legislation that will allow us to bank directly with the Federal Reserve. And then if we're able to do that, then that obviously minimizes that risk of working with any banks. Will that happen soon? Probably not. But we do see a future where that will exist. But yeah, look, I think transparency is key, and that's how we approach it through these monthly reports that are independently audited.
Do you think that they were pretty transparent there, Bernie, with their answers, or would you like to add a bit? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we give him a 10, yeah.
What do you think about transparency, like in this case with stablecoins from your point of view?
I mean, definitely like this business, like the stablecoin business runs on trust. And, you could have trust until you don't have it anymore. Look at what happened with Terra. But like, if you have trust and there's transparency to it, you potentially might lose some of that trust, like what happened with Circle, but if the money is there, the money is there. So like, definitely probably you want to run stable coins, you gotta have transparency, you gotta have trust, and you gotta make sure that your reserve are fully backed. Crypto DJ and Bernie still think that there's a big problem to be solved in the space, which is we're talking about decentralized economy. And I think Circle is starting to realize that as well, like with what happened with SVB and what Jeremy said. How do you power decentralized economy if you're still relying on very centralized player? So I think that's going to be the big challenge. And I think like also with what's happening with MICA, what Ben was mentioning about the Reserve Bank potentially might hold Circle to issue stablecoin there. The European Bank as well. I've seen potentially it's definitely probably closer than the Federal Reserve to do such things with stablecoin issuers. So I think that's the future, and it's still a big problem space to be solved for some brave or crazy enough person who wants to go and try the algorithmic way again. Right now we know that the only thing that works is the fiat back, yeah.
You say algorithms and Arturo's eyes light up, but no, we're not going to go down that path. But we've got a few more, like we've got questions for the crew here, but does the audience have questions? There's a few, all right, let's, Leah, let's go to the gentleman over here and then, actually we'll go around, we'll go to DK first.
This all begs that now that we're all going centralized for the same reason that traditional finance was centralized a century ago, and now all the new people found out, oh, that's why they did that in the first place. Question is, all those stable, if it's all centralized, which speaks a name, what happens when the central banks release their own digital currencies? Because that's the only benefit you offer, is that you don't participate with the central banks. Now, we know that when you ask 100 people, 99.5% don't care that the government is watching. They just don't care, or the rest of it is too hard. So why does anybody need a stable coin? And my first blockchain project was a stable coin donkeys years ago. Because the world's biggest digital currency has always been the US dollar, because 95% of it, 93% of it is digital. The second one after that was actually Aeroplan, frequent flyer miles. So why do we need stable coins? Because they are going to issue their currency in the next few years.
Easy question there.
It's an excellent question for James to answer. No, I think, look, it's a very interesting question. I think history will show us that central banks are not at the forefront of innovation. And the RBA, for example, has come out and talked about this idea of a dual sort of stable coin system with a wholesale stable coin and a private stable coin. We don't know what the future will hold. For us personally, as I mentioned, we work very closely with the Fed, where we try to, as much as possible, to guide them across that legislation and those guidelines. But I think it's still very much to be determined. I, personally am not sort of sitting and waiting for CBDCs to come out. I think we're still quite far away from that.
James?
Is there a world, for Ben, yeah, is there a world where you can see the Fed doing a print and it's in USDC?
I have no idea. I don't know, maybe, perhaps. That would be great. But I don't.
If you get Ben drunk enough, he might give you his real answer. Do you want to add to that, Bernie, or we'll go to the next question? Gentleman over here, Leah, in the whites. Thank you. Great question, DK.
Hey guys, my question is, because I worked in designing something for Algorand called GoUSD, and it was a stablecoin basket, and I worked with some folks from Ethel who did a digital or Australian dollar. Is there a use case for an Australian dollar stablecoin to be used beyond Australia in your mind? And if so, have you seen any projects that are leaning towards that decentralization, like how Circle is? Because we have a few banks doing it, but we haven't seen anything like out there. Well, we probably do have a few out there, but like just I was looking more like, is there a use case for an Australian dollar stablecoin?
Yeah, look, that's a really good question. And sorry, I do want to just answer this, and then I'll pass the mic so you stop listening to me.
Because you don't like games, I know.
No, look, it's a really good question, and it's not just Australia. It's like multiple countries that are looking at issuing stable coins. I was in Japan 2 weeks ago, and basically every single crypto player that we spoke to is interested in launching some sort of local stable coin. So it's incredibly topical. It's top of mind across the world. The issue with stable coins is that you need liquidity. It's not difficult to issue a stablecoin. It is very difficult to build liquidity around that. And I think that's the problem that needs to be cracked. And I know there's multiple projects within Australia that have issued stablecoins, but I think they'll probably need time for them to develop and to sort of be fully leveraged. Australia is a unique economy because we benefit from near instant payments already through our banking sector. And so that specific use case is not as relevant. But I imagine most of you have seen what Canvas have done with the EAUD pilot. That's a good example of how it can still be relevant within this market, because you're able to do cross-border payments, which are incredibly costly, which are settled in T+2, T+3, if not more. And if you have stable coins in that sort of environment, then you can really leverage the benefits, right? So there are ways, I think, that an Aussie dollar stablecoin will make sense, but not the obvious ones that we see in other markets.
I think there's a place down the road and overseas as well, when you don't have liquidity, they just print it. So something else out there. Have a think about that. Did anyone else want to?
I mean, I think, yeah.
There we go. Points to Circle. We are counting here. Questions over here. Let's get over to, we got there Phil or Charlie. Phil and Charlie.
All right, quick one here for James from Block Owner, and apologies, this will be a tricky one for you. On a technical level, how does your product differ from, let's say, BlockFi or Celsius or Gemini Earn, or is it essentially the same product but you're just trusting a different counterparty?
Yeah, look, the part of the deal of speaking at these things is getting at least one like really spicy question. So thank you for doing that to me. No, look, the answer is actually quite simple. BlockFi, this is my understanding, right? So BlockFi, Celsius, there was use of the assets that wasn't fully disclosed to the user, firstly, and there was also an underpinning of the value through an alternate token. And so what I mean there is like the Celsius, for example, was underpinning the value of their deposits using the Cell token, right? Which as we saw, had many issues. The difference with us is we don't even touch the money, right? It's not block owners' money. The money belongs to the user at all times, and it's on-chain verified. You can see it deposited in Aave. Okay, so the key difference is when we say DeFi access, it's your money moving into the asset on Aave. So, yeah, does that answer?
That was a much better answer than I was expecting.
Yeah, look, it actually happens quite a bit, right? Maybe this is a message to me and the marketing team we need to fix that up. But yeah, the most simple answer is when we say it's on DeFi, you can see it's on DeFi.
I thought you were saying that James, I thought you were saying that you get that a lot, that people say it's much better than expected. So, which is great. We're adults here. We love it. It's always much better than expected when we talk and stuff. But let's go to Charlie up in
Just
front of you.
for Bernie as well, your product sounds great. I'll be signing up tonight just to check it out.
Oh,
Thank you.
Mate, love that.
Thank you, Phil. Oh, yeah. We're going to get the mic across. We'll come back to you, Charlie. Hang on. Get on the mic.
Okay, the answer is yes, there's a use case, and it's coal, it's petroleum, it's natural gas, sheep, and maybe some milk. Because the main reason why the world uses US dollars as a settlement currency is because it has a settlement infrastructure. Now, if you have a digital currency, which is a central bank issued, but crypto digital currency, which the encryption carries the value, then that settlement infrastructure is irrelevant. The delivery of that encrypted key carries the value. Pricing is not an issue because Aussie has a lot of currency pairs that it can trade with. So pricing is not an issue. So that whole thing goes away. If you have central bank digital currency, people would rather deal in Aussie direct with their currency than go via the US dollar and the US dollar become the gatekeeper. That's your answer.
Thanks, TK. Over to you, Charlie. And then the gentleman up here at the front.
This question is to Ben. I know the answer, but I guess it's a good educational one. So how do you make money?
You shouldn't be allowed to ask questions. You've got this.
Yeah, sorry.
It's actually a very simple answer, and we make money mainly through treasury bills. So the reserve that we hold, that's managed by BlackRock, is in a fund that mainly invests in short-dated treasury bills, and so we make interest off that. Why is that? Oh, right. Next question.
We'll answer that offline, folks. Gentleman behind you here.
Hey guys, so I've got a separate question for every one of you. I'll start off with James. I'll make the question spicier. So how's the ASIC case currently going? What complexities are you currently going through so that those that come after you could learn from your experience? So with Ben, I've got a question for you. So
maybe we answer them one at a time.
Yeah.
A bit too hard.
Let's do it in time. And you said spicy. This is flames. Jesus. Answer what you can. Yeah.
No, look, I hinted at it earlier, but thanks for highlighting it. Look, regulators have expressed concern with products we've had in the past, right? Happy to talk about it. So how it affects us and businesses in the future is I would just say that transparency is key, right? So the issue with us isn't really, to be frank, it's not really with the product, it's with a misunderstanding of the product. And the core of the issue boiled down to how we messaged rather than what we're actually doing. So it's a big learning for us moving forward, but also every brand. It's just as important because ASIC is all about perception over function, it turns out, right? So if the function of the product is X, but you're perceiving it as something, the average user can perceive it in a completely different way, then that's what you'll actually be held to, is the standard that it's perceived as. So hopefully that answers your question.
It's pretty much communication.
It is a big communication piece. Apply for every license you think you don't need as well.
Right, moving on. Ben, So deep pegging is one issue. How does Circle protect themselves from devaluation of the USD?
Yeah, so I think to be clear, there's two sort of valuations of USDC, right? One is the primary market, which is through Circle, which means you mint and redeem through Circle, and that's the only way that you can access USDC through the primary market. And there was never any change in valuation there. So it was always redeemable for $1. It was always, and you could mint it as well for $1. That never changed throughout that entire period. The valuation that you're referring to is on the secondary market. And the secondary market obviously being traded on different exchanges. And the value then is decided by the market. How do we protect ourselves? Well, the reason why the volatility happened was because of obviously the banking crisis. That was no fault of any sort of crypto organization. And the simple answer to that is, while we wait for legislation and regulation to catch up, we diversify our banking risk. So we start to sort of get banking relationships across the world, not only centered in the US, but across different jurisdictions.
Are you guys looking at diversifying profits to Bitcoin?
Sorry, so
Are you guys looking at diversifying profits to Bitcoin?
profits to Bitcoin? Not to my knowledge, no.
Final question, Bernie. Simple one. Any sign-up bonus for your Stables wallet?
If you can. Sorry, what was the question?
Any sign-up bonus for signing up to Stables wallet?
Yeah, come and find me at the back, and I'll give you all the bonuses you want. I mean, that was a joke, by the way. Any sign-up bonuses? No, there's no sign-up bonuses. I think the bonus that you get is the ability that you can spend your stablecoin and do something that, like, before was a pain in the ass, and now it's so much better. We also early on, we're planning on doing a bunch of incentivized campaign. We have our own flavor of, cashback, rewards, and our earn product, which is not the usual earn product, but like that's gonna come later. Stay tuned. For now, it's you get a beautiful app and a card.
We had some questions at the back there. We'll go back to you, Phil, but like over here in that corner, back. Yep, right there, right up the back. I mean, one of the perks is the honor of being part of the Stables and Circle and Blockdaemon communities, right?
And you get the OG status
OG status, there you go.
on a beautiful card. Yeah, who
go.
knows
Yes.
what that means?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Hey guys, thanks for the panel. I had two questions about Circle. First one is regarding the interest that gets paid in terms of that BlackRock account. Is there any sort of...
Sorry, can you repeat that first one? It was, just hold the mic closer.
Yeah, sorry. Is there any intentions to, run a stablecoin that pays an interest rate, or, in terms of that sort of yield that comes out of those sort of managed funds, given that Circle has, a couple hundred employees and 20, $30 billion locked up?
1,000 employees.
Okay, 1,000 employees. Yep.
Yeah, so that's a very tricky situation. So in the US, we did have a product that passed on that interest income. And to be clear, we want to pass on that interest income. And that is because we think that if we do that, the amount of circulating supply in the market would increase dramatically, right? We'll be able to attract a lot more whales that want to park their money in USDC. However, it's very tricky because of the regulatory environment, and you're starting to then make USDC potentially a security in some markets, and therefore we can't just offer that across the board. It just, we're opening ourselves up to a whole lot of trouble, which we don't necessarily want. So until that's figured out, we won't be offering any sort of product like that.
Okay, thanks. I had a second question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just regarding the sort of the banking crisis when SVB went down, I remember it was, Saturday morning our time. And I think there was maybe 12 hours between when Circle sort of hit that 85-cent mark in the DeFi markets, and then afterwards when the founder came out and said, we've got this much in reserves and whatnot. In terms of having that sort of place as an oracle of some sort, is there sort of any intentions to run anything like that?
Any intentions for what? Sorry, I missed the
To
question.
sort of have like, for example, like an on-chain oracle that gets updated more frequently than once a month, or I get that there's sort of like these monthly transparency reports, but in those situations where there is a lot of sort of market stress, I think products, is there
So an oracle to
to sort of track like where the actual funds are being stored. So for example, you've got, 200 million bucks at BNY Mellon or something. Yeah, like a live transparency report.
I think practically that'll be very hard to do because the money is kept at traditional banks, right, and traditional financial institutions. And so the entire process of these monthly attestations is not, it's done independently by an auditor. So it's not that Circle is releasing these numbers. And to do it any more frequent than that, I imagine would be quite burdensome. I would also say that the monthly reports are not a specific requirement by the regulator. These are things that we're doing above and beyond what current regulation requires us to do. So I think a real-time oracle would be nice, but I don't know how practically that would
Just
be
wait
possible.
until we build a bit more infrastructure stuff and all the banks are running on blockchain. So yeah, then it'll be more real time. We've probably got time for one more question. Where was that other question?
Yeah,
Andrew, go ahead.
Quick
go ahead.
one. So, James, Bernie, are you guys are launching soon? Are you going to look after Australians overseas?
The expats.
So for clarity, we're already in market. Just a few of our products are coming soon. But are we going to look after Australians overseas? So our app is already available wherever you are in the world. It's just about getting the local payment rails sorted. So if you have Australian dollars, you can move it in and out of your block owner account wherever you are in the world.
I guess similarly from James, number one of building a global product is to have these payments rails. But going back to the looking after Australian overseas, it's a yes. So if you're residing overseas, you can still get stable cards, if that answers your question.
Great,
And offer
thank
into
you.
your bank account here, yeah.
And Circle, what are you guys doing for Aussies? Enough, yeah.
Hey,
AUDC.
You heard it here first. No.
Fantastic.
No,
You
no, no.
heard it here first, folks.
Please, no, that's...
No. Look, just wanted to say thank you guys for those questions. I thought we get into the audience. I think those were much better questions than the ones that I came up with using ChatGPT. So thank you very much. Spicy. Ooh. All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much. We're gonna go to a few kind of updates and stuff, and then we're gonna bring up a little special guest who's gonna serenade us with wisdom at the end of this. I'm looking at you, Rob. Front row, you get it. Let's go to the next slides. Past that one. So adoption and utility. What am I talking about? Like those were better questions. Spicier, much better. I just want to talk about this one. It's a bit faded. You'll see it when you watch the replay there. I want to talk about Web3 and AI just very, very quickly. And blockchain and Web3 was a really popular topic, and it was the pretty sister, so to speak. And then all of a sudden, someone pretty has come along, and everyone's an AI expert and stuff like that now. The reality is that there's a lot of crossover between the two. And if people actually know what they're doing and they're not just repeating what others are saying, in terms of the technology itself, it becomes really useful. So I've got a few points up there. AI, where does it help Web3? Well, first of all, smart contract auditing. When you don't really know how the code works. Thank you for that, Chris, smart man. Our lighting guru right there, folks. So where you don't really know how code works, you might not be technical. Well, you can use ChatGPT to explain to you what a smart contract is doing. It's all there on Etherscan. You can go into that. You can start doing these things. Smart contract auditors like Hashlock, for example, who've been up on stage here, use this a lot as well. So it's really interesting there. It helps make operations more efficient. You might not have a chief marketing officer. Well, maybe you don't need it if you know how to prompt things correctly. There's really great tools in every day, all of these things that are helping real businesses out there and the up and coming businesses that are going to be powered by Web3. They can all use this kind of stuff across many industries. And with content creation, like we've been able to do great things. Like if you're new to DeFi and Web3, we've got a Getting Started series that took me a while to get off the ground because we were so busy. Well, guess what? When ChatGPT came out in November, I was able to finish it off. So there's a lot of really good things that are going on there. And where Web3 helps the AI space, because it goes both ways. There's all this talk about where does the data sit? Is it transparent? Is it centralized? Well, blockchain can be this immutable, transparent, trustworthy and auditable source of the information. And we're starting to see many AI projects start to look to blockchain to be a place to store their data. And also for royalties. We've been talking about DAOs and tokens and all of this kind of stuff for a long, long time. In the blockchain space, we have this system that if AI deploys, it can be a place to actually have those rewards when data is being used to feed into AI models. On the right-hand side there, hands up here who's been playing around with Midjourney? Anyone? Or DALL-E, these image generation tools? Please keep going. You will move away from stock images, even though these are based on stock images. We'll get Raymond's son here from HSF to talk about the legalities of all this kind of stuff. You got Einstein there. Well, let's put my face on it. Let's go next. There we go. You can kind of see it. I look old. This is me after running a week of events. So see me next week. Let's go to the next one. Tom Cruise, Top Gun. What about if it was me? Kind of. Like, it's a bit darky. You can't see it. Let's try the next one. Oh, what's going to happen here? Okay. Hey, it's Nick. Love it. And then Arturo's got a feature in here as well. There you go, Arturo. Look, Midjourney's fantastic. You can do it for fun stuff. For our newsletters, for Chain Reaction, which is the Oz DeFi newsletter, if you want to keep up to date, when they spoke about things like Binance and the regulatory stuff going on, we've got that in our newsletter and stuff, so we try to keep up to date. It's out every Monday. But the images from that are from there. So definitely, yes, Leah, take a really good photo of that. I'll share more with you. There's progress shots as well. So anyway, let's go to the next one. Some more updates. People are really interested in how crypto compares to real world assets. And there's been, for example, Chainalysis, the on-chain analytics gurus and detectives. They speak about something when they do their talks where the S&P 500, how does that correlate with Ethereum or Bitcoin? And it's very correlated, right? Well, we were interested in taking that a bit further, and this stems from Nick. Like, I built it with some of our interns, but Nick was the one that came up with this idea of looking at major crypto assets and looking at how they compare versus well-known stocks. So for example, we've got some US technology stocks there, and you can see some strong and maybe not so strong correlations, some delays in time there. I think we're looking at Ethereum here. There's an online app, if we go to the next slide. There's an online app that actually lets you explore this. And shout outs to Callum, who's probably watching us from up in Brisbane, but he helped us take this further to get it updating every day. I was actually updating it kind of semi-manually every week, but because it updates every day and it's automated, now we can do things like looking at, on the one side, the comparison from 2017 to 2020 of, I think this is Ethereum, ETHUSD versus the S&P, so the S&P 500, that's represented by the blue line there. So on the left-hand side, it was only 32% correlation. It was like a bit mixed there. But it got stronger over the last 3 years up until March when we last measured this. But you can see that up online. Correlation is not causation, but it's certainly interesting that people are starting to look at these assets as very similar to technology stocks. We look at Australian stocks, we look at ETFs there. It's a really cool app. It's only for correlations, but we might add some other stuff there. I'm already doing enough, so we'll see. Next one, please. Please. Yep. The pink, that's fine. The NFT Heroes is an NFT project that was created with our awesome artist with the hat here upstage, Simo. Stand up, Simo. The Italian stallion, pizza sensation. Come on, man, come on. But anyway, these NFTs are... He's all about the style, I love it. So basically you get a hoodie. Leah, please stand up. You can see one of our pink hoodies right here. Nick's wearing it up the back as well. Other colors, whatever you want there. Early access notification to events. You get a certain section in the Discord, which is just for the holders. So you get early announcements about when we were doing the new podcast. Those folks got it first. And you get a free consult from some of the partners that are here, whether they're in the legal space or blockchain building space and development. You get that free half-hour consultation. So it's definitely worth it. So, take a look. And if you want more details, you can talk to me after. Let's go to the next one. Sign up to our Discord. So get that. I'll leave that QR code up there. We don't often finish early, and maybe there's a correlation here between Arturo not talking on stage and us finishing on time. But we've got a good friend of ours, Rob Morris, who's right here on the front doing some awesome things in the world of building. If you want to just take a quick seat up on stage here. And Rob, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about you were a part of a hackathon recently. You flew to Japan for that, just for the hackathon or for other stuff?
I mean, do you ever just fly to Japan for one reason? It's pretty great over there. But yeah, that was for ETH Global hackathon, and so at that we had 24 hours to build something, which isn't a lot of time. So we made a way of deploying Web2 applications on chain with the same trust parameters as a smart contract, which was pretty good and made it work. It was a bit ambitious.
What was it that you guys built there?
So that was called Hypercartridge, and it's essentially a way of deploying a Web2 application that can run from a local sandbox on anyone's computer via an NFT. So you have an NFT and you have the application. It can't be changed after it's been deployed, which is an interesting problem to solve because a bunch of web components of like dApps and so on are all run on centralized infrastructure, which means they don't have the same trust framework as blockchain apps. And then the hackathon we just finished literally this morning at 5 a.m., so I'm a bit tired, sorry if I ramble, was the Autonomous Worlds Hackathon, where we used the same technique as Hypercartridge to essentially, and then using Lattice's MUD2 framework, which lets you essentially put a bunch of Autonomous Worlds entities and so on chain and query them, to put autonomous AI agents essentially on chain, building like rich worlds where they are persisted. So as you kind of go through the world, there's like a whole system that can like generate metadata that gives you these like consistent, essentially like NPCs who have their own agenda, their own goals, their own motivations, and talk convincingly about those both with you and with the other agents, mediated through essentially a world agent. There was some spicy prompt engineering involved, but we managed to get it running in vanilla ChatGPT 3.5 so that anyone can use it. And so what's fun about that is as you explore the world, essentially the seed of the personality for each of these agents gets persisted on chain. And so anyone else that comes to that same agent gets essentially the same personality and experience, but a completely different playthrough. And so then we didn't do this at the hackathon, but we can essentially also then not rely on ChatGPT or DALL-E APIs because everything's generated, right? It's all completely dynamic, including the world, the story of the world, the art direction for the asset generation, each of the NPCs, the setting, their relationship with each other. It's all generated. So an AI can generate all of that for you, or you can generate yourself. But we can also make it all open source and run what I call from chain using Hypercartridge stuff. So essentially, you then have autonomous AI agents that can't be turned off, what could go wrong on chain talking to each other. So that's some of the stuff I've been up to recently. But I was going to say, hey guys, I'm Rob. I've been around the crypto industry since the beginning and the emerging tech industry since the 90s. I know a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff. I could talk about anything. Instead of telling you about the random bullshit I've been doing in the last few weeks, I thought I might either open it to the audience for you guys to ask anything you're curious about in crypto, however esoteric, or I can tell you about the death of Machiavelli. Which would you prefer?
Death of Machiavelli or questions? Death of questions. Okay, got it. No, oh no, we have. Sorry, go right ahead. I didn't see your hand up. Please.
So with the autonomous worlds, do you see it having applications in finance, or is it strictly like gaming stuff that you can see it going for?
Great question. Absolutely. So one of the really interesting things about fully on-chain games and autonomous worlds is that if you cross your ideas, this is the lack of sleep. If you cross, not your ideas, if you cross your eyes, it's all coordination stuff. It's all the same thing, game theory. It all applies to humans interacting. It was actually a great segue into the death of Machiavelli, but yes, it does apply to finance. It also applies to governance. It applies to how we structure human affairs, how we get things done. All of these tools are completely relevant. Now, let me tell you why. So, once upon a time, there was this thing called the agricultural revolution. I'm kidding, I won't start there. So we've just lived through the age of monopoly. And so for all of our lives and most of modern human history, we've been essentially in a human system that advantages a moat, essentially. Why? It's because of economy of scale. So essentially, the modern corporation and the nation state emerged around an economy of scale that comes out of production efficiencies from a large organization. Hence, we get corporations, we get governments. Why? It's because it's the most advantageous thing. So Machiavelli argued essentially for strategies that were advantageous in a time when chivalry was the most dominant idea. So everyone hated it. They were like, dude, like it stands against everything that we stand for. You know, we fucking hate this. And Machiavelli was essentially like, well, you can hate it or like it, but if you use it, you will win. And that was essentially his point. Actually, not many people know, but Machiavelli was very interested in essentially democracy, and that was why he was arguing for this stuff. It's sort of like, you know, Epicurus, an ancient philosopher, was really well known in the modern era. You would associate it with like a luxury, but he was literally the guy that was like, you don't need anything except for good friends and the simple life. So things kind of get flipped. And it's the same for Machiavelli. So, to the point, sorry, I'm tired.
So there's something behind you.
Oh, you got hyper cartridge up. Yeah, does it have the sound?
No, there's not going to be sound. I don't think, no sound. Sorry, no sound.
It's
Can you make the sounds?
Yeah, it's a Commodore 64 soundtrack that I wrote as part of the hackathon because we didn't have enough other things to do, you know. As well as Commodore 64 themed art, you know, just threw out a few extras. Okay, I'll get this to the point quickly then. So, TLDR, the death of Machiavelli, things that are advantageous are what win. Monopoly has been advantageous. However, driven by the world becoming increasingly dynamic and interconnected, as in the way humans communicate, then there's a problem with corporations and big companies, which is they're slow. They cannot be fast. They are not adaptive enough. So increasingly, the consequence of having a good moat and economy of scale also comes with a side effect, which is that you're always too late. You're always making decisions that can't quite keep up. And that is getting faster and faster and worse. So if you're familiar with the innovator's dilemma, there's a similar effect here where the incumbent strategy still feels like it's the winning strategy. And you look all around you and you see that everywhere winning. However, it's already starting to lose. So the new thing is essentially that you get more advantage out of momentum than you do out of protection. That's already true. So you're starting to see a shift from zero-sum adversarial games, monolithic hierarchical coordination, towards positive-sum cooperative games. You can apply this everywhere. I'll give you a nice, succinct example. Walled garden SaaS businesses are doomed. They're doomed because they rely on a moat to essentially lock people in if they don't have a natural moat, and that moat then allows them to price higher, and then that generates lock-in value. They're doomed because you can now essentially launch a protocol business, and the protocol business will be more useful and cheaper and easy to access. It gets a bigger network effect, and so will eat the market share. A lot of these protocol businesses now have an effect where the more people who use it, the better it is, and the cheaper it gets. So, sorry, I know I'm shotgunning you all here, but
That's okay.
A software business drives up EBITDA by reducing costs. So a traditional business, the costs go up the bigger you get because you've got more people. Yeah, invested people are all like, yeah. And a software business essentially scales linearly, so the ratio of like revenue, like essentially income to cost, stays about the same. Well, a protocol business gets cheaper the bigger it gets. So you get a bigger share of the profit, which means that the EBITDA goes up maybe to 20 to 50x for a proper protocol business. So that's pretty advantageous, right? So if you're considering a walled garden software as a service style business, there's another way now, which is consider a protocol business and consider the fact that as local first, state synchronizing blockchain style technology starts to become widely used, which is happening right now, that will mean that instead of your data being locked away, you'll have your data, you'll be able to walk away at any point, and no organization will be able to lock you in anymore, because what you can get will be better, cheaper for the companies doing the disrupting, by the way, which means that they can charge a margin and still make money underneath your price point. And so you can still try and run a SaaS walled garden business in this new dynamic that's coming, except that you're just going to get outcompeted unless you're charging a fair price. So there are examples where you are charging a fair price or you've got a natural lock-in, but that's going to have to be the case. The market will figure it out. So this is what I call the death of Machiavelli. It is a change in system dynamics that make coordination that is cooperative and open and interoperable more advantageous than zero-sum coordination. And hypercartridge is a very, very distilled example of applying those kinds of ideas.
What's the website?
Yeah, well, that's we deployed that with hypercartridge at the hackathon. That's ide.hypercartridge.eth. So it's deployed via an ENS name. Yeah, basically, it's you can't use it. You can't really use it yet for anything serious. But if you go to that IDE, you can totally play around with it, write some code, and then run it straight out of that application, running out of an NFT. If you like.
We'll share more details about this after, and we could go on and on and on. And I would love for people to come chat with Rob after this, but I think we're going to have to wrap up there. But we are going to do a podcast where we go really esoteric, deep. There might be some stuff drank, maybe smoked. I don't know. Whatever's legal.
Can we do it in the dungeon?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it. We'll do it at the Whiskey Dungeon. There is a Whiskey Dungeon, folks, and there is some armor that is worn and hats of sorts.
Yeah, thanks for listening to me shotgun you all with a bunch of ramble. I hope it was useful.
And it's recorded. Thank you so much, Rob. Just some final notes before we go over here. So we'll go back to networking again. I don't think there's any food left unless you want some soggy chips. But if that's your thing, then cool. But we will probably wrap up at around 8 o'clock. Chris and I are going to pack up the cameras. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that's come. You can see here that we are very much a strong kind of builders community. Even if you're just interested in the space, you don't have to be technology savvy to be part of this. There's ideas here you can contribute to as well. You can be creative. There might be things that no one else has thought of before, but with the building blocks that people like Rob and others up on stage are building, you might come up with that next great solution, and we're all helping each other. Rob talked about, positive sum games. There's prisoner's dilemma, and we've all heard of that kind of problem. There is the iterative prisoner's dilemma, and I'll link that in the meetup, where when you take it beyond just the single game, it actually has been proven mathematically that having a more cooperative way of acting is so much better than being in competition with each other. So, hey, if the math says it, then it must be right. There is an event tomorrow. So Andrew, who was up on stage here, it's Telstra Ventures and Blockdaemon coming together with the support of Blockchain Australia and ourselves and others. That's over in the Rocks at Crypto Lulu, which is also the home of the podcast that we're going to be doing. And where to next? So if you do stick around, we'll go for drinks down at our Hotel CBD, or whichever comes first. There might be another bar on the way. And one more thing, if you're in the blockchain space and you want to get users and the UX UI problems being a thing for you, as Rob mentioned there, look at things like in the AI space, ChatGPT. Look at how quickly they were able to just garner mass adoption from riding that wave of momentum. So have a think about that. This is all recorded. We'll get this out soon. We had a few little issues with the recording, so hopefully that's all okay. Chris, hopefully? Fingers crossed. All right, well, thanks very, very much, everyone. We'll see you soon. We'll see you at the next one.